Let us begin our first reader of the evening. And this is where I like music and sound effects because I would totally press that button that goes right. Is Isabel Gonzalez. So glad to have you guys here. So glad to have you here, Izzy. Let us begin. Isabel Gonzalez was born in the BX, the Boogie Down. If you don't know where that is, don't talk to me. And raised in Newark, New Jersey. She received her BA from Rutgers University, an MFA in poetry from Drew University, and serves as the assistant director for the poetry program at the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation. Isabel received invitations to attend Vona, Tin House, Ashbury Homeschool, and Boat Press workshops. She is a Canto Mundo Fellow. This is going to be a recurring theme tonight. We have some Canto Mundo Fellows in the house. Right? We've had some for the whole reading. We were so proud to have published our first full-length collection, Wild Invocations. Get your hands on this book, y'all. It's a doozy. It is beautiful. It is ancestry. It is heritage. It is love. It is full of so much. Please check it out, and you'll hear her probably read a few from here and probably some other new stuff, right? Isabel, fun fact about Isabel. Isabel is a Wonder Woman aficionada. She loves all things Wonder Woman. See, I'm old school. I'm like the Linda Carter Wonder Woman, you know, right? That's the one I grew up watching, but it's all good, right? And she recently married the love of her life. So congratulations, Isabel. Woo-woo. Everybody, welcome Isabel Gonzalez.
So I'm so grateful to be here. The last 2 nights have been amazing. The readers, phenomenal. I want to start by, in the tradition of Thanksgiving, right? Thank Roberto and thank Get Fresh Books for believing in the work. Believing in Wild Invocations. It took a host of various communities to bring this book alive. And I just want to shout out the Drew MFA program, Tin House, Vona, Boat Writing Retreat, Rutgers, and Canto Mundo, of course, for making these poems happen and standing with me and behind my work. I also want to shout out today the artist who did the cover for Wild Invocations. She has a connection to Newark. She lives in Newark, Marta Szorzuska. And her bio is actually in the back of Wild Invocations. We worked on many iterations of the cover, and she was just phenomenal and really invoked Wild Invocations on the cover of the book. So shout out to Marta. I also want to say that working with Get Fresh Books was phenomenal, especially in terms of I felt really such ownership in the look and feel of my book, and that was really important to me. The artwork, the text, everything, the whole feel of this book. So proud of it, and that's really and largely because of Roberto and Davenport who did the layout, and I just want to shout all that out because it's all important. It was really important to me, and Roberto paid attention to that, so that was really important for me. So I'm going to start out by reading 2 poems from Wild Invocations, and I'm going to start with the last poem in the book, which is called Invoking Asabache. Martyred mother, pin me close to La Figa, an asabache, fist full of a peeking thumb. How the amuleto came to be is this. Tia Sola did not only make sancocho. In Puerto Rico, she had a room on the side where she pulled a memory placed in my mind to run a backward timeline. I see her pressed palms now pushing back against cracked recollections. A cigar smoke spell seeped from her lips into mommy's nostrils as a translation was made. I believed. My next bath was filled with red and white carnation petals perched upon oil-spilled waters. My first mistake was I did not dip my head under, fearing it would wipe my English clean. My second was that once dressed, I refused to wear Santa Barbara's sword hidden in my breast unless a white boy find it. I changed. I change. Granules slow and hourglasses, time warps, and my Americana plays out a smoky lens streaming summer sun. I cling close to a melting mirror, something off a Dali canvas, watching my brown face dribble, then meld into white as if for God's play. I change back to my origin, morph into smooth jet fossil, healing, hailing like cosmic showers, power-soaked asabache, cloaked in forbidden faith, scolding scepter in my Borinquen grasp. I will last. I'm also going to read another poem from Wild Invocations called My Brown Body. My brown body is inherited along with its jeweled head split on a curb, blood lingering on pavement. It is the red birthmark of a nation, and I can't stop clawing at my mother's scar, incessant legacy carved into my flesh, initials in oak. I own a crowned tongue steeped in men who took pleasure in my mother's mother, found joy in desecrating a body. The women before me thread violence to themselves, welting wounds into offspring. I discover the ache, but not the why or how of it. My body remembers history even when my brain is muddled, as if one leg is shorter than the other, a hobble, reminding me this body's belonged to others. It will see the same open casket, bear the same brown bruised face, mouth twisted open as if to say it remembers resistance. And tonight, I want to lift up the poet Yamini Pathak. Her chapbook just came out. Like literally, I got this in the mail like a couple weeks ago. So I want to lift up Yamini. The title of the chapbook is Atlas of Lost Places, and it's published by Milk and Cake Press. And what I love about these poems is her navigation with immigrating from India and having one leg in the Indian culture and another in the American culture, raising her sons, navigating all these, a lot of sort of similarities to what I grapple with in my poems. And so I'm going to read from this chapbook, the Atlas of Lost Places, with one of her more sassier poems, In My Own Skin. I wear my goddess skin to work at the Monday morning meeting. I ride in on a muscled tiger, the color of sundown, trapped in the slink of a slow-moving South Indian river. His fur contrasts nicely with gray carpet, Georgia O'Keeffe prints on the standard issue gray walls, shocking pink bodice, silk-striped harem pants, stilettoed something mean. My chandeliered earrings pendulum, my nose stud, red planet casting light on the dark plains of my face. My 3 sets of biceps flex at the ready, multitasking baby. My hair, cumulonimbus, carries essence of jasmine and Mumbai monsoon into the chill of the air-conditioned room. I sport my third eye like a diamond coruscating between bushy brows, but don't be fooled into believing I'm all ornamental. When Petunia from credit policy goes into striking cobra pose and venoms her questions at me with a hiss, flames from my forehead laser forth and raise her to the ground. She makes a soft pile of ash. I flick a jasmine bud atop the smoking heap on my way out. So you can see why I love this, why I love this collection. It is just it's so rich. And Yamini is actually located in Central Jersey, so also a big fan of my Jersey poets. I'm actually going to close with a longer piece that is a new piece. And again, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I want to shout out my, I'm getting emotional here. My Ride On Poet Babes, Lynn, Marina, Tamara, Kat. I just want to shout them out because during this pandemic, they've really helped sort of steady me and challenge me, push me to write hard truths. I just feel so grateful for them and for them being in my life. I feel like this poem is born out of some of the conversations we've had, and just so grateful for them being in my life. It's called Origins, very new poem, a little bit longish, but I'll close here. Origins. Lucia, purveyor of ripe mangoes, overseer of rivers, begot Hilda, priestess, dreamer, whisperer, gem keeper, who begot her only daughter. Named for royalty, I've been a slave to invention, newness, unyielding boxes holding a body which I'll never get back. Young woman I wish I could claim but never owned. That is her beauty, infinite, reckless, spiritualist, in love with a God that's been kind. The young woman was once a girl, friendless, but loved by her mother and father like an animal who mouths their cub by the scruffy neck. The girl did not know how to dress. The girl did not know how to comb her hair. That is the price you pay for loving pages in a book. You live messily. But the girl knew other things, Disney and radio songs and a bird in a pink cage that hissed through his bars. She loved creating and storing alternate versions of stories in her brain, like that time during recess when the schoolboy walked up concrete steps leading inside, leaned over and spit on her puffy coat. It was such a cold day. Couldn't the white have been snow on her shoulder? And what of the way she walked, hunched, hoping she would crumple, her body disappearing into smallness, whiteness, plainness. She imagined all the ways she could save her body from being looked at, eyed, devoured. She knew, too young, how a body could get a woman in trouble. It's my fault for constructing myself this way, was the pervasive thought echoing in her little girl brain. The young woman forgives herself and is hopeful, like Disney, like radio songs, but not like the hissing bird. The woman now is forgetful, remembers how to create, but forgets how to love her body. Men used her to feel alive, and she allowed it because her mother's advice about love was garbled, words on the tip of her tongue she can't quite recall. She decides this is the end and surrounds herself with women who love her, guide her, pick her up, and instruct her to be patient until she can hear the music again, the words again, trust her body again, hear her mother. She does. It's glorious and everything you'd imagine. angels' iridescent wings flapping, the earth rotating more quickly, and even, yes, soft kittens purring on a pillow. It is raucous. It is peace. Origins should never be taken lightly. They feed the ego or starve it, creating a woman boundless or shackled, sometimes somewhere in the middle. Isabel was born to warrior women, but had to learn it all again, the same lesson over and over, like Caribbean water rushing in on sand, drawing back to reveal creatures hiding in their shells. When I evoke my start, I taste salt. It calms me. I taste power too. Rough boulders washed over by ocean, instructing me to be formidable, believe in their rocky boldness. This origin is for you, the believer, the rebel, the odd woman out. Maybe yours is a little like mine, daughter of a goddess, birthed with a bit of fire flickering from the eyes. So I just want to thank you again, Get Fresh Books, and all of you folks here. Just feeling really grateful tonight.
Yeah. I got emotional last night, so that's okay. We all got to take a turn. We all got to take a turn. So beautiful, Izzy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, I think one of the most beautiful things you can hear at a poetry reading is when a poet says, my writers group. My friends who I write with, who support me and who lift me up. That's what it's about, you know? That's everything. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Everybody get you some of that, okay? Get you some of that. All right. Our next reader has a cat that's in the background going nuts, right? That's what I'm talking about. This is going to be interesting. You can tell the story of the cat and everything, because I'm sure we all, you know, everybody wants to hear it. And I would love to know more. So I'm going to ask you to unmute, and I'm going to read your stuff. So hold on. I just want to make sure it worked. Worked good?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So this is Rosebud's poetry collection, Turnaround Bright Eyes, with this wonderful cover art. You know, Isabel said something about how our poets all have a hand in kind of constructing the book. And, you know, some poets aren't used to that. They just figure, all right, just, you know, give me my book. I don't know, right? But then I think through conversations and stuff, it develops that they then take a very kind of active interest. And one of the things I loved about working with Rosebud, and the majority of our poets all have a vision for their book. They all know what they want to see as the cover. They all know what they want to what they want to hold in their hands. And so that's so much fun, because when I was working on my last book, you know, my editor was like, okay, just tell me what you want. I'm like, all right, I'll just send it to you, and that's it. Okay, you put it together. So in any event, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful book. I think one thing I can say about every single book we've published, it's beautiful inside and out, right? Inside and out. So head on over, get yourself a copy of Rosebud's book. Okay. Born to a Mexican mother and Jewish father, Rosebud Ben-Oni is the winner of the 2019 Alice James Award for If This Is the Age We End Discovery, forthcoming in 2021. On the first night of our reading, we had Carrie Salerno reading with us. She's executive director of Alice James Books. They're doing wonderful work, as always, and have been for a very long time. And it is so apropos that Rosebud's words would find a home there as well, right? She's also the author of Turnaround Bright Eyes, which I already showed to you guys, right? Her chapbook, 20 Atomic Sonnets, which appears online in Black Warrior Review, free for everyone in PDF format, is part of a larger future project called the Atomic Sonnets, which she began in 2019 in honor of the periodic table's 150th birthday. She's a recipient of the New York Fine Arts Fellowship, right, in poetry, and another Canto Mundo Fellow in the house. Um, Last night, Rosebud was at an Academy of American Poets event, and the national student poet, Ethan Wang, unbeknownst to her, surprised Rosebud by reading one of her poems at the event. So that was kind of nice to be a reader and know that young people everywhere are engaging and connecting to your work. Rosebud and I also kind of share a love of quantum theory and the study of gravity and time and all of this stuff. I'm terrible at math and I have a horrible memory, so I read it, I love it, but I can never retain it. But she's managing to put it into words in ways that not many poets have done, I don't think. So wonderful. Everybody, please welcome Rosebud Ben-Oni.
Hola, everyone. So I'm trying not to get emotional either because I have to read. But there really is no one like Roberto. I'm trying to not cry. Roberto, you're just an amazing person. So I'm going to leave it for there, but I'll have more to say in a moment. So I first read a version of this poem this past summer, I believe, with Get Fresh. It deals with sexual assault, just so you know, which I am dealing with right now with the trauma. So this is called Poet Wrestling with Blood Fell. It's a new poem, but it's coming out in an issue from a wonderful new journal called Ideas, I think that's what it's called. So this is, again, Poet Wrestling with Blood Fell. Not every conversation is worth having. The heart makes us a regressive species. Intelligence isn't as easy as learning things. Thing is often the most accurate word in my vocabulary. Accuracy is not the same as being exact, nor is it precise in judgment. I flirt quite carelessly with meaning. When I read Hebrew, I feel trapped by God. God and I are horse and walks beside her. God and I talk to ourselves in each other. When I was not old enough to ask questions, I learned Hebrew words are boys and girls. Shalom, the brotherly guardian of the fields, while milchima, all the beasts and broken seals. Now I believe bitter herbs are best eaten by the spoonful. Language, like God, is a solitary pursuit when you're trying truth only. Dirt before the egg and the chicken, while elegies must have come before odes, though both reveal the teeth and bones of what made a thing a thing. Flossing regularly feels as lavish as sowing early fields, and getting to the bottom of things never gets to what's really eating you. Eggs won't ever expire if you boil them long enough. That kind of time tires me. Truth tires out the best of us, like waiting long enough for the sun to go down on a summer Sabbath. Not every conversion will turn wild horses toward God. I don't mind if I never leave this galaxy, given the rate space is expanding. Headbanging is the best way to kill a headache. Hair metal over folk ballads, since you'll die in my arms tonight and won't stop believing that nothing's gonna stop us now. But I'll keep Annabelle Lee. It's the worst ballad about she. I don't covet male pronouns. I know who I am exactly, won't say where I'm going. Hi. When I say shalom, I don't mean peace. Even if I don't know you, I'll share my food because I get full quickly. It's still a sort of giving. A spoonful is not as good as peeling skin and getting in there savage and messy with my hands in public on public transit. I save the pits and plant them. It's still a sort of grieving. Because dirt before the chicken and eggs eventually dry up, and that's why time is always trying me. Misogyny is not a misunderstanding of culture. There is awareness of which I am suspicious of the men who unpieced and thinged my equus into elegy. I had to fight them off alone and could not, and it was not a matter of accuracy. There was light, there was dirt, there was gaving. I'm suspicious of the giving it takes to grieve. I'd like to bury them in all the things they took from me. Watch them blight and go to sea, let them heal by becoming nothing. Repeat, repeat. You say the Hebrew word for war is female. I say bitter horses are best eaten for eternity. I like the turn that they have taken. Not everything is worth a conversation. So I adopted this cat who is currently, he's recovering. It was a really interesting story, and I'll keep it kind of brief. But when I first went to adopt him, they told me he has feline HIV and he has all these other problems, and he had been at the shelter for a while. I mean, it was a no-kill shelter, and I adopted him anyway. And then when the vet came out, they realized that they had made a mistake in his paperwork, that they said to me that he doesn't have feline HIV. It was another cat, and maybe that's why nobody adopted him for so long. And the thing that she said to me that really kind of crushed me was that she says, he's really affectionate for someone so abused. And so that really got to me, because I kind of grew up in a very violent household, in a very violent neighborhood, in a very violent world. And violence has just sort of permeated my life this last year. Since November 2019. And people keep saying, oh, but you're so optimistic, you're so gentle, as if they're surprised that, one is not just perpetually angry by the violence caused. And so I've been thinking about why it is that I'm perceived as gentle or what have you. And I think I can actually trace it back to having my mother's family live on the US-Mexican border, and sort of my mother having to deal with the reality of having family on both sides, and her not being able to really understand for her part, why the border itself is such a big deal, right? Because to us, family is our family, and we used to come and go. We used to be able to cross the border with a driver's license. And so a lot of weird stuff happened when I was growing up in the Rio Grande Valley, like just hurricanes are a perpetual thing there. But there's just a lot of unexplained phenomenon that occurs there. And I think in a way for my mother in particular to deal with all the fractures and violence and all these things that come along with the border is to sort of make a study of the supernatural. And so she became convinced that aliens would come to power their spaceships during thunderstorms using the electricity in the Gulf of Mexico, and she came up with all these theories. So the next poem I'm going to read, Poet Wrestling with Surface Tension, I had found out that the village that her grandmother comes from in Mexico had run out of water. They actually ran out of water, and there was no coverage of this. And I was calling her to tell her about it. And she says, oh, okay, well, we can talk about it when I get back. And I'm like, where are you going? What, she never takes vacations. And she goes, oh, I'm going to Area 51. And I said jokingly, oh, say hi to your relatives for me, right? Because she's always saying that our family's been visited by extraterrestrials. And it was funny because at that moment we were talking about water and we were talking about extraterrestrials, I realized that my mother doesn't like the word alien. And I realized why, all the political connotations. So I wrote this for her. It's called Poet Wrestling with Surface Tension. When the wells dry up, my mother is taken to search for extraterrestrials in the desert. The location, like her real age, is undisclosed. No fake protostores, no high-altitude balloon conspiracies, and no reception. The call, in a sense, ends the moment I tried to claim the apple, never fell at all from either tree. Abba asserts, breathe, and then warns me she doesn't like the word alien. I know this well enough, how my mother knows well enough, that deserts are not prophecy, or a graveyard song for an animal sanctuary somewhere far off, founded on second guessing. Like it ever mattered which side of a fence or warhead to the last rhino left when he's blessed, with 2 armed guards to protect him from everything but thirst. Over static I hiss, it's too late to save face. what they must think of you, when your best techno signatures are smog, sulfur dioxide, stampedes, and open-air stadiums. Is this how you're found amid the darkness? Is it enough? Would you not exist if you lived unseen? While my mother rises and falls into sky, I repeat how humans have changed the destiny of this planet. Abba cries out, breathe. He mistakes this for atonement and fires back. How wrong the foundations here, like those in supersymmetry, are stacked. How you built your wells and havens so inaccurately that your ultimate capability is never being proven wrong. I won't ask for forgiveness when Abba searches for his place again among you. Was it enough to believe the apple would never rot from a lack of rigor? When did you stop asking for the math? And when the rhino turns into a golden calf, what will tarnish and unearth your base metals? What will you do when your alloy sour and gasp? I hold my breath, I trap his wrath, the heart continues to track. Abba falls silent when I switch off every tap and highway, render complete darkness. The last of you continue to gaze up for no reason you will recall. You shiver and open mouths wide for what was precious and pure, and I no longer pretend that I ever breathed any part of it. This future you pulled together, the way a single drop of water relies on surface tension. I won't ask forgiveness when giving away exact coordinates and next destinations. Don't be afraid. On the surface, we aren't unlike one and the same. It's just you are the reason you're already gone, and I'm here to stay. So make of that ending what you will. I'm going to read a poem now from J. Michael Martinez's book, Museum of the Americas. It came out in 2018, and it's just an incredible book. It's really one of a kind. I highly recommend it. He's just absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to read part of a longer poem of his. It's called Skin Maps, and I'm just going to read a section from it. As nails from the skin, you feel skin nailed to the body. At birth, little hammers make the skin stay. Now the nails want out. The blood for the cauliflower cloud. You want to be clean. You needle the purple the eye under the eye. You needle your white head, your black head from the pore. You scrub, you wash your skin tender like small feathers. You want to be clean. You want the skin as silk as your skin punctures to thorns like guillotines, like small feathers, tender. Like fathers, you tie a noose on the garage concrete. You cry a funeral. You would want hydrangea orchids, a wicker birdcage with butterflies. Your mother crying butterflies, your body like wax clean, flowers cut from the body. You want the one purple below your eye to disappear, a black thorn closing the tear duct. Eyes swelled, black swelled shut. You would want a black tie suit, crying your body a cage of wax. You would write to love is conceiving you as abandonment, reborn. So again, that's Museum of the Americas, and it came out from Penguin in 2018. I highly recommend it. I've been teaching every day this week, except today on Monday and Tuesday, and two separate classes. I taught two different poems from that. So I'm just going to read two more poems. I'm going to read one poem from the forthcoming Alice James book, and then I'll close on Turnaround Bright Eyes. This is a string theory poem, me fighting with my father about a lot of things. So this is called Poet Wrestling with Her Empire of Dirt. And this is from If This Is the Age We End Discovery. Abba says in a blizzard, fill the bathtub with firewood. Abba says a leaky roof is a blessing, provided the bucket to melt snow. With fire we gather all the trees and queens, shake and shiver. My axe cannot approximate. My axe is a plastic bottle filled with club soda. I wonder when it unfreezes, will it explode? Abba says, light of my eyes, where are you getting your science? I no longer know. I used to believe in string theory, but the field breaks too many rules. And you can't quantify nor quantum even a drop of rain. Everything's just too damn big for models that would prove the rules tried and still not true. The roof is always leaking. The bathtub is a mass grave of trees. Abba says, go outside before it's too late. But I've seen. In a public bathroom, I hide with many other women from a storm. The leaky roof fills with cinders, and once more, a dead bird. One of us screams. They all scream when I pick him up off the slimy floor, pick the maggots from his body. Soon I have the bathroom to myself in public. I have an entire sanctuary of sorts to mourn. When I bring the dead home, Abba tears at his clothes and covers the mirrors, won't let me burn the body, says even birds died in the show as desperate, hungry hands, days before the bodies were turned to ash. Perhaps this bird too descends from a lone survivor. We cry for his mother. We cry for my grandmother. Free up the bathtub and flood our home with rainwater. Float a burning empty pyre. I say, Abba, this isn't what we do either. Abba says it's too late to go outside, which I do. I try. I dig and dig for dirt to find my father. I lose the feeling in my hands in snow that doesn't quite stick to the ground. Night falls and his body stays warm under my layers, drenched from sleet and sweat. I won't give in. Birds gather around me, dark lights against blue cement. They wait it out. They stay perfectly still, right out in the open. So this last poem I'm going to read, this book wouldn't have happened without Roberto and the Get Fresh peeps, and I'm just like really grateful. And to close on a note, this has been a very difficult year in my life, my whole family, and just it's just been a year of loss, but it's also been a year of like very deep transformation. And so I like this poem, not because I wrote it. I like this poem because it has sort of a humorous story. I'll keep that short, but basically it's a long love letter to an ex-girlfriend that was in my life for many years. And she was a woman of few words. And when we broke up, she texted me this line, which I didn't know was a line, but I thought they were her words. She says, I guess we'll have to be secretly in love with each other and leave it at that. And I was so moved because I thought that she's never said anything like that to me. Years later, I'm watching on, iTunes, an old movie called The Royal Tenenbaums. When Gwyneth Paltrow utters that exact phrase, I get so angry. I immediately text my ex-girlfriend. I say, you are a fraud. Like, she's a fraud till the very end. I said, you got this from the Royal Tenenbaums. These aren't even your words. She said, well, why don't you write a poem about it? So I did. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Roberto, and everyone. This is called, I Guess We'll Have to Be Secretly in Love with Each Other and Leave it at that. To can't do, to overly over you, to te amo wrong name, to songs of wronged I think we, and planting boxwood and snowdrop for not our winter children, nor sweet box or winterberry. To face timing winter silence for hours, to know Camillas and Christmas rose touching through a screen and still not sorry about some horse I knew in Iceland for less than a week and some other life lurking on black sand shores. To my life, to yours, to sulking under half-sunken moons and oh, the places we won't go. To not Airbnb haciendas of airy rooms and canopy beds engraved with lions rose-tailed and rose-maned. To drug restaurants that serve only cobra lilies with a side of blackbirds who wield spiked hammers. A kind of punishment for that horse I still long for. To splinters and spitting the names I'll never curse you in kitchen inferno when burning certain animals without remorse. To your most exquisite stews and fermented cabbage jars I won't break, rushing to catch a broken down train. To that first trail we missed, to falling off an eroded hoof print. To the city you saged by sticking a scorched trainer and sliding door and what's so wrong with hell anyway. to happiness as betrayal of what is happening to people we love and to people not just waiting around to die, to love as resistance but not always the way back to I can't I? To you crashing into the bathroom and fishing me out of the sink and carrying me in your arms like that scene in The Bodyguard. Only the song I sing has no queen, has no eyes, our dreams there is only dim and dog-eared coddish. To forgiving me for all the plums I'd most certainly devour. To the platypus and Fisher King, to breaking in case of emergency. To reading Adonis in a crowded bar while television signal flare amid a canopy of crows. To having hope in our pop-up wit at the world its edges sour and peeling. To never really having left Jerusalem, which is why I'm still busted stars and throwing elbows. To the hours we made horses between nightfall and war. To should go home. To leaving it the longest way of derailed horse cry and amaranthine bones. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosebud. Awesome, beautiful. Thank you for your kind words. I'll just say what I always say. I'm just trying to be the change. That's it. Thank you so much. All right. How we doing? Everybody good? Shaking your chair a little bit. Right? Drop your shoulders, unclench your jaws. Right? I always hear that. It seems like everybody knows when I'm doing this. Right? Beautiful poetry so far tonight, and we're just gonna keep rocking on and rocking on. Don't forget, at the end of the reading, we're going to give away a Get Fresh Books coffee mug to one lucky member in our audience. And so we'll move along to our next reader, and our next reader is Tamara Zbrizher. I always tell her I know the correct pronunciation of her last name. I know, even though I don't even remotely speak the language. I know. Tamara Zabrisher is a Ukrainian-American poet. Her work ranges in subject matter from her Jewish heritage, motherhood, womanhood, immigration, and the passage of time. Her work has appeared widely in print and online. I just kind of edited that. Her poem, When the Holocaust Burns Your History, You Grow Myth, was nominated for a Pushcart Prize, rightly so. She lives in New Jersey with her son and now one overfed cat, because our kind of favorite cat, and I'm not a cat person at all, but I really liked this cat. My man Miffins, right, passed away, unfortunately. So now she's there with one cat. Fun fact about Tamara that I can tell is that right now she's rocking the Joan Jett hairdo, and I'm sure it's because of the pandemic. She's got the, you know what I'm saying, right? This is Tamara's book, which we were so excited and proud to publish. Tell Me Something Good. I loved this manuscript because it's gritty, it's tough, it's no nonsense, but yet it's tender and hilarious. There's so much humor in here as well, and I think it encapsulates Tamara's personality and who she is really, really well. Everybody, give it up for Tamara.
Thank you so much, Roberto. Thank you, Rosebud. Thank you, Izzy. Your readings were beautiful from what I could catch. I was putting my son to bed. That always sounds so creepy. I'm putting my son to bed, like some mafia stuff. But I'm really excited to be here, to be reading amongst friends. So thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm going to read a few poems I'm going to read one poem from my book now, and then one later, and then I'll read some new stuff. And I'm going to start with this one that I think a lot of you have heard already, but here's Goose to make his entrance and annoy me. I'm going to read this one poem for my brother, because he's here. Say hi, brother. So here I go. I'm thinking about my next tattoo. Maybe the wheat stalks my brother and I promised each other for Ukraine. as if needle-thin lines could keep a country inside skin, as if puncturing flesh keeps experience from bleeding into dreams. A pain for a pain of reincarnation. New words that clog in cracks of teeth and twist the tongue into unslippable knots. Scars milk and honey leave behind. Scabs where home once was. The repetitious stabbing, the itch, the healing, and what remains. These self-inflicted talismans that even years later beg the questions. Does this ink belong? Does this body? So I guess I'm gonna read some family poems because it's Thanksgiving and you guys are like family. So I'm gonna read some new ones. And I've been doing this thing where I've been kind of working on these poems with footnotes, which I realize is really difficult to read out loud because nobody can see the footnotes. So whenever there's a footnote coming, I'm just going to kind of do this so you know that it's a footnote. And I actually wrote this poem last year for a really great project for Arts by the People called Intonation. And so here's the poem. Everyone should check out Arts by the People, plugging them in too. When my hands were not skilled enough to craft a poem to replace tenderness, I borrowed the shape of her mouth to lament something meaningless. Synonym for meaningless is futile, i.e. waiting in the wrong line, or the way my arms long for domesticity counterintuitive to revolution, to cook something, to hang wet clothes on the line, to carry groceries home, 6 stuffed bags per wrist, wishing for octopusation, to have more arms than typical of a mammal. She and I sit across the kitchen table, radishes between us and revolutions. They go down bitterly too. Oceans and rusted samovars and coffee-stained teacups. Her mother sits on her head and I keep checking my forehead for fingerprints, though the words clogged in my throat are proof she's already there. During our cross-continental suburban sprawl, something got lost in the synonyms. Years later, I found myself all synonyms. Octopusation, the condition of wanting to be everywhere at once, to be wild boar wild, all tusk and bristle. There are wisdoms that only stick after staring at a thing for too long. I have seen her face from the first moment and still it feels borrowed. Little known synonym for borrowed is precious. This is how we had hoped to fall for one another, over time and tenderly, turning tusk to tendril, octopusing every bristled history across the table, but still and somehow we're no closer to connecting fingers than Adam and God on that frozen fresco, forever an inch from falling into the arms of love, which must be at the root of this domesticity. The root of domesticity is domus, meaning home. A little history of your own mothering, synonymous with safety, of 6 stuffed plastic bags per wrists, of never the ease of 10 items or less line, never less than 10 items strung on the clothesline, where tendrils dry into tusks, and I, having inherited no opposable thumbs to write a poem that can cross the ocean across this table, lament instead of praising the tenderness of tusks inside a mouth that never kissed a kind continent. And another new one about my mother, family, I guess. A sonnet in which I am in the bathtub on a Friday night, examining my legs and thinking I should have taken them out on the town, instead of soaking post-eating 3 Cadbury eggs, even though they were on sale post-Easter and have melted into a sticky puddle inside the cabinet after I hid them from my kid, but forgot. And lo, they were resurrected when I opened the drawer to steal some of his bubbles. I swear, this is not the parable of a shitty mother. I'm saving him from cavities and bought the bubbles so they're mine by rules of commerce. Still, what would Jesus say? What would my Jewish mother? I'm tempted to make a joke. How she'd forgive the betrayal as long as they were on sale, or if you'd work as hard at finding a husband as separating the wrapper from the chocolate, ma, from your mouth to God's ears. But if you could only taste the sanctity of this solitude, this sweetness, I swear, ma, parabolic. And I'm gonna, so the book that I want to share with you guys that I've been reading is a book that it came out a little while ago, Natalie Diaz, Post-Colonial Love Poem. Great book. Everybody who knows me knows I'm a little bit obsessed with Natalie Diaz. And right before quarantine happened, Roberto came over and we had like a really great night of whiskey and talking, and he brought his copy of this book over and forgot it here. And I was like, well, that's my book now, thanks. And he just kept bugging me for it, so I had to return it to him. And I finally got my own copy just recently, and I've been reading it. And so I'm just gonna read you one of the poems because Natalie Diaz does this thing so beautifully where she twines history and heritage and family and love and romance and passion in this really lovely way. And I also really love this song, so I'll read this poem. They don't love you like I love you. My mother said this to me long before Beyonce lifted the lyrics from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. And what my mother meant, don't stray, was that she knew all about it, the way it feels to need someone to love you, someone not your kind, someone white, someone, some many who live, because so many of mine have not, and further, live on top of those of ours who don't. I'll say, I'll say. What is the United States if not a clot of clouds, if not spilled milk or blood, if not the place we once were in the millions? America is maps. Maps are ghosts, white and layered with people and places I see through. My mother has always known best, knew that I'd been begging for them to lay my face against their white laps, to be held in something more than the loud light of their projectors as they flickered themselves sepia or blue all over my body. All this time, I thought my mother said, wait, as in give them a little more time to know your worth, when really she said, wait, meaning heft, preparing me for the yoke of myself, the beast of my country's burdens, which is less worse than my country's plow. Yes, when my mother said, they don't love you like I love you, she meant, Natalie, that doesn't mean you aren't good. Beautiful poem. Yeah, so I'll read another new one, and then I'll just close with another one from my book. So this is another one of those footnote poems, and I've been trying to write love poems, which don't work because of, I don't know, because maybe I'm a cynic, but I think love kind of has a hard time working. I mean, I know it works, but there's so much distraction. I guess that's what this poem is for. It's trying to love in a world that's, you know, bombarding you with everything else. So. And again, when there's a footnote, I'm going to do this. Everyone always looks Mercury retrograde in the wrong natural light. I'm tired of being that friend at the dimly lit bar who reads you her poems, aches, sins, ancestry's hysterias, and you say, aw, slip a compliment the way you slip an obligatory tip in the bartender's palm. I want these babies' poems to be neon from the exit sign, but so far, all disco balls. If someone told me the truth, Old English, faithfulness, fidelity, I'll gladly watch Netflix and chill until my eyeballs bleed glitter, glow up, clown face the contour, 3 pairs of Spanx and a too tight mini, swipe left, meet me under the disco ball, baby, babe, babe. I know the lingo, never let me go. Under low lights, baby, female lead in 1987, Dirty Dancing, birth name Frances Houseman, but nobody called her that. Gin glass half empty and a young man to stare into my ass, I mean eyes, I mean ass. I'd spend way more time working out my thighs instead of metaphors. Young men don't like their women layered. Mini skirts in December, I'll be your never cold baby. Baby, it's cold outside. 2018 controversial song. Rape culture turned joke as in Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court appointment despite sexual assault accusation. The country agreed Julie, Deborah, and Christine were lying. Like all those girls on lines to get inside where strobe lights filter them glitter. Microplastics that pollute marine environments. In this truth, poem, America, even smiles are filtered. Forgive this so last season brain, but I'll take my truth barefaced, acne scarred, puffy eyed. Forgive, no give, me on unbleached truth. I swear, I'll stop begging strangers to explain the retrograde. Poetry, prayer, America. I'll take it all at start value, at planetary shift, baby. Rosemary's, Gerber's, Yoda? I'll get fit and snap happy, blame every mistake on the retrograde. This battered heart, travel plans badly made, which is to say, all I want are your fingers in my mouth, heart. So stop taking them far, far away, baby. So precious that you are of my body. I'd sell you on the retrograde, baby. So precious that you are of my body. I'd praise it so prophetic you'd never get in planes, trains, automobiles. 1987 John Candy film, binge-worthy. We'd forget truth, water, sleep, food. I'd make it retrograde all year, baby. So precious that you're of my body. For years, maybe. Make it retrograde so long we could build a whole life waiting for the world to spin in the right direction. Because the truth, baby, you, it's hard to see past all this electricity, you, poetry, past this whole damn world, you, poetry, America, that runs on the difference between good and bad lighting. Nice. And I'll finish with this one. So since this is a Friendsgiving, I happen to have a poem for this occasion in my book that's called Ode to Poet Friends. I've known Roberto for a really, since we were in undergraduate together. So, you know, just a few months, forever 21, right, guys? But yeah, it's been a while, and I've known a lot of you for quite a while now, and I feel so lucky that you've become, you know, a sort of family to me that not only houses me, but inspires me, which is so rare and so wonderful, so thank you. Just a warning, this poem has a lot of cursing in it and inappropriate, you know, stuff, so hide your kids. Here I go, thank you guys. Ode to poet friends, who are the only ones you tell the whole truth to. Everything gets old, even fucking, especially the same forever, no matter how long forever lasts. The one friend says, lust returns like everything in this great circle, and dabs lavender on your wrist from a tiny bottle she pulls from her bottomless purse. The other friend laughs and sinks shoot into his closed fists. In that long way, his words take a scenic route and turn off at my messy bun. Look how gray we're all getting. And somehow that's sexy. The idea of us being old or older, that we grow more naked, the grayer we get. And suddenly the idea of fucking the same forever is all virginal again. You come home to your man snoring on the couch, think about waking him, but know he worked a double and have pity, or are too tired to take both your pants off. So you pull a blanket over him, pull out your laptop, and get to work on a poem, which never gets tired of being on top, of reminding you that words are the bodies too. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for having me. You're all awesome. Thank you, Roberto. Thank you, Get Fresh, for publishing this book. And I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara, for that fire-ass reading. Look at y'all getting busy working on these poems. We get on the quiet tip. I see how it is. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, wow, what a night, right? Look at us just getting down to business. Thank you, everybody, for hanging with us and sticking with us. Yeah, you know, I'm about community, about family. I think that's evident. Yeah, you know, the really, really real. And to that end, right? Community, family, the really, really real. I think I met Jessie Alvarez in the most unlikely of places, right? An online writers community where we were just like, I don't know. I just always say real recognizes real. And I can't believe that enough. And just over the years, we just, kept chilling, getting to know each other, seeing each other at events, doing readings, and just, Jessie's podcast is so fucking dope because she gets into the literature and the stuff, but there's not the pretentiousness, I think, that sometimes can accompany some of those things, right? It's this very real exploration. So please run out and check that out, all right? Let me get to the bio, or I'll be all yammering all night here. But, Jessie's been working on this novel for a while now, right? And from what she's published of it, it's going to be a killer. She's the most patient writer I have ever met. And I think one time we met to just talk about novels because I'm like, I'm working on a novel and I see how patient you are. Can you talk to me about it? And the novel's still there because I haven't finished it because I just doing this. I don't have the patience to get through it. But yeah, okay, let me read the bio. So I'll just keep talking. Jessie Alvarez is the editor-in-chief of the literary and arts journal, Digging Through the Fat. She is the publisher and series editor of the Digging Press chapbook series, which is publishing some phenomenal chapbooks, by the way, phenomenal chapbooks. She's also the curator and host of Digging Through. We see the titles, right? Digging Through the Fat, Digging Press, Digging Through. I like how she did that. A monthly reading series at the Red Room KGB Bar in New York City. She serves as a judge for the New York City Book Awards. Jessie's been busy reading submissions, and her hair is a mess. Like, that's the fun fact she wants you to know about her life. I didn't come up with that on my own. Excuse me. I also want to just say that the readings Jessie throws, like, the people go there to hear, fiction or poetry, and they are talking and laughing, and it's like electric. Nobody's just kind of sitting there waiting for the reading to start. She has to tell them to shut up so the reading can start. It's hysterical. But it's also awesome as hell. So if you ever get the opportunity, if we ever get out of this nightmare, please, the next time she has a reading in the city, run over there and check it out because they are so much fun. Everybody, Jessie Alvarez. And let me press the button so you can unmute yourself because I should have been done that. Boom. Go for it. You can unmute yourself now.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Thank you for being here on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I think that's amazing that you're all here supporting this amazing group of women that Roberta has invited to read tonight. I am absolutely floored with all the work that you guys shared with us tonight. Thank you. Thank you so much for being who you are and for being amazing creators. So I noticed people were doing this thing where they were sort of incorporating the writer they're going to promote in the middle. I'm going to start with that writer first, and then you can listen to my crap. But let me start with really good stuff first. So I actually am reading an old book. This book came out in 2009, and it's Ana Maria Schwa has a collection called Microfictions. And she's a writer that's based in Argentina. And I was just doing research for a class that I had to teach, and I was trying to I didn't want to just find the sort of like mainstream flash fiction kind of writer. I wanted someone that was really incorporating poetics and philosophy and playing with language and doing it all in a very, very short block of words. And I found her, and she's really teaching me so much about how to work this microfiction form. I'm just going to read you a quote that this is how she sort of describes microfiction. You can go from almost anecdotes to almost poetry. You can choose to be philosophical and poetic at the same time, or use it in a minimalist, realistic way. You can go for the fantastic and absurd and still offer a deep exploration of emotion and thought, or at least it should offer the possibility. So it's that possibility that I really like, this idea that you're creating and experimenting and trying to figure things out. And as long as somehow you touch on this possibility, I think is a very powerful thing. So I'm just gonna read 3 of her little short pieces, and just to give you a taste. Night sounds. In the summer night, calm and warm, all that can be heard is my sleeping daughter's breathing and the soft purring of a refrigerator in heat calling for its mate. Cousin and grandmother. Cousin Nora is pregnant. It's good news, which the family had waited for with little patience. I ask grandmother if she's happy. She gives me a distant smile from the mist. So it was true, she tells me, happy. So it wasn't just a dream. But the mist is vast, it's dense, and my grandmother's eyes frighten me. And this last one. Having grown. How big you've gotten, says my Aunt Rachel, with some effort, pressed against her bedroom wall with such force that she can hardly introduce into her lungs the air she used in marveling at the size of my hand that is trying between the index finger and thumb to take her by the waist and bring her closer to my ear. So that's Ana Maria Shua, S-H-U-A. Please find her and read her. She's amazing. Okay, so I'm now gonna read my version of my microfictions. I have about 3 of them, and then the last one is something different. So when I get there, I'll explain that one a little bit. Auteur. A blur of gray and black sharpens into fur, a heaving abdomen. She pans the camera down, movement. A small head peeks out from a tiny opening. She has no interest in the sounds, only the image. Interference means corruption. The stray cat lets out a long sigh. Her kittens mew and squirm. She chooses not to edit the moments when the camera shifts out of focus. Editing destroys truth. She's developed a reputation. Her films are too long, too raw. Her refusal to edit is anti-cinematic. She might as well take a shit on Eisenstein's grave. She reads essays on film theory and agrees with Bergman. Film has dream. Film has music. She moves with the camera, keeps the lens out of focus. This next one is called Chesenia. Every first day of school, the girl had to sound out her name to the teacher, and every day after, the teacher would mispronounce it or avoid saying it altogether. A child without a name feels unreal, disconnected from the physical world. The girl moved around the classroom like an apparition, ineffable, never hearing her name and never speaking to anyone. But one day, the teacher told everyone to be quiet, and the girl talked because a classmate said her name correctly. He asked the girl a question. The answer came to the girl so suddenly, it burst out just as the principal, Sister Mary Rose, wandered into the room. And the principal pulled the girl up from her seat by her ear, out to the hallway, and yelled at her. The girl stared up at Sister Mary Rose's Joan of Arc haircut and pale blue eyes, crying, begging the principal not to be angry. "What's your name?" Sister Mary Rose said. The girl said, "Chesenia." The principal stared at her blankly. After that day, the girl would see Sister Mary Rose in the hallways, but the principal never said the girl's name out loud. Inwood, New York City, 1976. She had a friend who owned a set of Walt Disney books. Dumbo and Bambi were her favorites. Her friend also collected Barbie dolls. They cut the hair off one and colored in pubic hair on another. Her friend's older brother showed her how to shoot a BB gun from his sister's bedroom window. He wanted her to shoot a pigeon that sat on the ledge. She aimed for the lamppost instead. He stuck his tongue in her mouth and then said, "Disgusting." She asked him what that word meant. They looked through his sister's dictionary. They spent the rest of the day looking up words she didn't know. Okay, so this one is a little risque. So yeah, if you have kids in the room, it's a little longer. So this is the last word. She's wearing a banana yellow pantsuit and her best ash blonde wig. He's an hour late. One of her fake lashes falls on her lap. The glue's still sticky on her eyelid. He yells from outside her window, "You up there?" She presses the eyelashes back in place and stumbles out of the apartment and down the stairs. The stubborn eyelashes fall off in her haste. He meets her by the landing and she tries to hide in the shadows under the upper floor staircase. "I have to go back upstairs," she says. "No, you stay right where you are." She raises a hand. "Stop right there," she says. "Don't hide from me," he says. An ambulance siren cuts the tension. "Don't tell me what to do," she says. They are on their third bottle of ruby wine, and his head is on her lap, greasy hair staining the white skirt draped over her brown legs, sitting on her mother's chaise lawn, gold velvet marred by wine stains, her mother's first American possession. He bumps her abdomen with his imperfect nose. Like water, he absorbs her heat. "What happened to your nose?" "A woman broke it years ago," he says. "Did you deserve it?" She pulls his head closer and smothers his reply, and he lets her, rubs his nose back and forth, his arms reaching around her. "That woman taught me something about love," he says. He bites the inside of her wrist. "Sometimes I want to eat through your sweet body," he says. She tries to escape him, but he drags her back and she curves inside his open arms, her forehead pressed against his scruffy chin. "The first time they fucked," she cried, and he stopped. She kicked him, maybe. He didn't touch her again. She is bent over the couch, long nails digging into the fake leather skin as he rubs her inner thigh. "Stop," she says. "You sure?" His voice gravelly. He just discovered how to use it. She looks at him when he says this, her whirlwind boy with black eyes. She licks his forearm, pulls him into the lip of her orchid. And when she makes the choice, he doesn't say anything. He takes out his keys, tugs at each one in his key ring as if the answer is hiding in a locked room somewhere. I have the last word, she says. He sits there at the table with his key ring hanging from his finger. Outside, she spies on the boys and girls in the alleyway between 6-story brick buildings, containers of shouts and cries, murmurs and secrets. She sidesteps around the rats and piles of trash bags, hides behind refrigerator carcasses. She watches the boys trap the girls against piss-stained brick walls, underneath bony chests and lanky arms, black-lined cat eyes eclipsed by close fade haircuts. That's the end of that one. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. And thank you, Roberto, Isabel, Tamara, Rosebud. Thank you so much.
Thank you. People in the chat were like, wow, damn, yo. I was like, yes, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you so much, Jessie, Tamara, Rosebud, Izzy. Yes, a group of kick-ass killer women, absolutely. I hope everyone enjoys the holiday. I hope that we keep our Indigenous brothers and sisters centered as we go through this holiday, right? And recognize that whatever land we are on, it was probably taken from a member of that group. Yes. So please keep that in mind. I want to, Summer Hart writes, thank you from the traditional land of the Munsee Lenape. It's awesome when you can know that, right? So, you know, check that out. At this time, we want to choose our winner for our Get Fresh Books coffee mug, right? Fletch writes, they made us many promises and they kept but one. They promised to take our land and they took it, Chief Red Cloud. Indeed. All right. Let's see. I had Natalia put the names through some type of magic thing that she has. And I apologize if I'm going to say your name incorrectly. Hopefully the winner is still here. Sakari Eakin. I don't know if that's correct. I'm going to give everybody the ability to unmute themselves. So everybody can unmute themselves. Go ahead if you want to, you know, snap, clap, applaud, just say woohoo, yeah, go for it. Right? Malik has written the awesomest manuscript ever. And it's so timely that one of the drawbacks I think of this whole publishing process is that I can't just kind of snap my fingers and throw a book into the fray immediately, right? Because this book that Malik has written is exploring the history of uprisings. I will call them uprisings. I will not call them, riots, because I don't want to use that to be language. Right? And we always forget that there's a very long history of white supremacy attacking perfectly peaceful places where people of color live. But yet that's not talked about as violence in the same way that riots are talked about as violence. So I'm excited for you guys to hold Malik's book, which we're still planning the release date. All right. But it will be soon. It will definitely be in 2021. All the Stars Aflame. Yes, Malik?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so take it away, Malik. One interesting thing about Malik, if you look at his image, you're going to see the image of a pen. Malik has a practice where he does not allow himself to be recorded or his image to be captured. But thank you, everybody, for hanging around. Thank you, Malik, for your graciousness. Everybody.
Hi.
Malik Abduh.
We're back. All right, so let me, again, so I just wanted to start with the tradition from the Prophet Muhammad, where he said, La yashkurullah min la yashkurun nas, that whoever has not thanked the people has not thanked God. So for me, I wanted to start off by thanking Roberto. He's been incredible. I was so happy to get the news this year that the manuscript was picked up. I couldn't have picked a better home than Get Fresh Books. Everyone has been so incredible. I want to thank Natalia, who's been incredible, Victoria, everyone at Give Fresh Books has just been phenomenal to work with so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with everyone. I also want to thank the poets who have read over the last 3 nights. I am humbled to be in your company and quite thankful. As Roberto mentioned the manuscript, and I'll just read quickly a few of the poems. The title is All the Stars Aflame. And as I began to write about and I will, some of them were riots, right? If you look at the earlier incidents in America, 1906, Atlanta. If you look at 1921, Tulsa, they were riots. But when you start to get later on into the century, when you start looking at Newark, for example, when you start looking at LA, those were uprisings. There were different reasons behind those particular uprisings. So I like to distinguish between the different incidents. But I named it All the Stars Aflame based on the lines from Baldwin's book, The Fire Next Time, where he says, try to imagine how you would feel if you woke up one morning to find the sun shivering and all the stars aflame. And I just thought that was a perfect title for that theme of fire that runs through the first section of the book, dealing with all of the riots. So just quickly, I'll read some of the poems. The first poem I wanted to read is actually about my grandfather, who played Negro League baseball. And this is, of course, the 100-year anniversary of the Negro Leagues. My grandfather was a pitcher. Now, according to family lore, he was the greatest pitcher to ever pick up a baseball. But in reality, I know that's nothing but family lore, right? So I wanted to sort of investigate that, but I also wanted to write about the Negro Leagues a little bit and what those great men and women went through. So I wanted to read this first poem. It's called Barnstormers, and it starts with an epigraph from Cool Papa Bell, one of the great Negro League players. They used to say, if we find a good black player, we'll sign him. They was lying. Cool Papa Bell. They tell me Pop was some ball player, copper toned, tan as the leather of his glove, squinting on a dirt mount under Virginia skies. A southpaw, they tell us, tall and slight the way a pitcher should be. His lanky arms made his wind and release like a slingshot. Fingers curled in a question mark for knucklers. A little tobacco spit made his sinkers spiral and drop over the plate like a yo-yo. They say his mud ball would have put the babe on his ass. At grandmom's, I sometimes stare at his creased photo fading in the family album and think to myself, he sure don't look like much. Tattered logo and numbers coming apart at the seams. They were Pullman porters who clanked dishware on sleeping cars, barnstorming every city from Tupelo to Hackensack, and warming up in bullpens beside chicken fence. Cheers from the crowds became the cries of 11 children and ship horns on the docks of the Navy Yard. We played peekaboo at his funeral beneath the pews of 19th Street Baptist, too little to care anything about the cancer he coughed up for months. They say he always joked that when he died, he was going to haunt them ballparks the way he did in the days when he and his tribe were just shadows of the game. The next piece is a poem about the MOVE bombing of 1985, Osage Avenue. I'm from South Philly, and this happened, of course, in West Philly, the bombing. We were kids, and we sort of weren't able to sort of really understand what was going on. But in this poem, I wanted to not only sort of talk about what happened there, I wanted to talk about the violence, the violent nature of this country, right? This poem really is dealing with violence in this country. Start off, I talk about Superfly Snooker. I end up talking about comic book heroes, the Hulk and the Thing. And there's just all of these themes of violence that run through the poem. And I wanted to kind of investigate that here. This poem is called Osage Avenue. My best Superfly Snooker off the dining room table. Put my little cousin Germ in a half Nelson, then a pile driver from the banister. We knocked over chairs and slammed into Mom Minty's china closet. When her crystal and plates clinked, she stumbled from the kitchen with an extension cord, threatening to give our legs a shock if we didn't get from her house. We slammed into each other like a game of roughhouse in the tiny vestibule, trying to be the first one out. We spilled off the porch into the heated May evening and sprinted up Tasker Street around the corner to Two Guys to buy tasty cakes, Boston baked beans, and lemon heads. Whenever the door jingled, Mackie never took an eye off of us. He always mumbled through cigarette smoke that South Philly boys were born crooked. I bought a pickle from the murky jar on the counter and listened to the old head huddled around the 14-inch Emerson on milk crates. They guzzled old English in twisted paper bags and slurred at the scene on the TV. A furnace black cloud swelling over West Philly. Fire trucks parked along the block, hoses coiled. They done dropped a bomb on them niggas. I tore the top off my lemon heads and shook some in my mouth. Leaving the store, we headed towards the stoop to pitch quarters, arguing over who would win a rumble between the Hawk and the Thing. I lived overseas for a number of years. And when I came back, my neighborhood was gentrified. It had changed, right? South Philly had changed. And I was shocked. Actually, one of my friends was in the room tonight. We went to eat one night at a spot near my old neighborhood, 20th Street. And I said to myself before I went down there, they want to eat down 20th Street? Like, I couldn't imagine why they wanted to eat down 20th Street, because it was in my old neighborhood, 20th Street was rough. So when I got down there, I was shocked. They were dog groomers. I'm like, dog groomers? Like, the only dogs we had were pits running around when we were kids, right? So I wanted to sort of investigate that in this poem. So this poem is called Ask the Local Gentrification. How many bricks did they turn to dust last year when they imploded our building? When the city lined the streets with dumpsters, came in with cranes, wrecking balls, and C4. Through the brown cloud, I remembered all those mailboxes missing names and numbers. Our mailman was some kind of savant. Miss Pat, who wore a different wig every day, and at night kept her teeth in a pickle jar beside her bed. Mr. Ralph, who gave us rolls of quarters to bring him packs of cools from Two Guys. He used to chase us down the halls until MS tangled up his legs. Miss Tink, who grew a garden on her 5th floor balcony. Her reds, pinks, and greens were like Eden above our asphalt earth. August days, Uncle Pio broke out the plug wrench and turned the corner into Wild Water Kingdom. We splashed until the water department trucks came to dry us out, stood there dripping and grinning, knowing those trucks would have to come right back. This was all before the brown cloud, before the coffee shops and dog groomers came, before the bulldozers, moving vans, and U-Hauls carted our lives away, one lampshade and china closet at a time. Richard Pryor is the reason why I'm here tonight, right? I fell in love with language because of Richard Pryor. Normally when I talk with other poets and writers about influences, I hear that, the common, phrases or common statements. When I heard the rhythms of Amiri Baraka, that I fell in love with poetry. And for me, that came later. For me, I fell in love with language from Richard Pryor. And come to find out years later that he was a poet. Pryor actually wrote poetry. Ishmael Reed said that he tried to convince Pryor to publish some of his work, but he was too shy about his poetry, so he didn't publish it. But I actually quote some of his poetry in an essay I wrote about Pryor and about this poem, actually. And another thing that was strange for me is that our parents hid these records in the basement. I had to sneak to listen to Pryor records. But my father cursed worse than Pryor, right? My father's language was way worse than Richard Pryor, right? It was one of those things like if Pryor heard my father curse, he'd be like, man, he need to watch his mouth. So I never understood why they hid those records from us, right? Our whole neighborhood was on those records. So this is a poem about Pryor. Is it something he said? When I snuck past my father, he was all over the couch mumbling a drunk man's dream and crunching the plastic cover with every turn. But no matter how much he crunched, not a drop spilled from the pint of Southern Comfort on his chest. I fumbled with the diamond knob on the basement door and creaked down the stairs into the red light district. When I stubbed my toe on the washing machine, it rumbled through the house like a dump truck, but not a peep from Pops. So I flipped through the stacks of albums and milk crates, and there, tucked between Donny Hathaway and the Ohio Players, the bushy afro and wild man smile. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Richard Pryor. As the record spun, I heard my neighborhood in every groove. Bartender, nigga, give me my whiskey. And I could see Uncle Bill coming out of Bason's Lounge, stumbled across Tasker Street and slump over the hood of his car, mistaking his pant leg for a toilet bowl. Officer, I am reaching into my pocket for my license. And I could see Pops moving real slow for his wallet the night some state troopers pulled us over in Jersey. You don't know how to deal with the white man. That's your problem. And I could see Scoop drinking malt duck on 24th Street, going on about trickle-down economics, giving the kind of wisdom only a wino can. Did y'all see The Exorcist? It's a story about the devil. And there I was in the 69th Street Theater with my sister, our feet up in the seats, while the mice scuttled beneath us. We watched this crazy girl throw up pea soup and twist her head around. The whole time I kept one ear on Pops upstairs and one on Pryor, sounding like our fathers, our uncles, our neighbors, our junkies, and sat there wondering why they hid him from us in these basements. I didn't want to leave tonight without reading one of the uprising poems, one of the poems about the uprising, and I thought I would read the last of the poems in the first section, which is the LA uprising, LA 1992. And many of you probably remember it. And there's an epigraph. I have to laugh because this is pre election Ice Cube, right? You got to think Ice Cube from the 90s, right? So there's an epigraph from Ice Cube. To get some respect, we had to tear this motherfucker up. 1, what you buy? What you watch us buy here every day? Soap, coffee, cigarettes, the $1.79 bottle of orange juice you shot Latasha over. We drive slow down Normandy by another man's face on the asphalt, prostrate like some saint. Black boot on his neck, shotgun to his cheek, lips moving like a supplicant. Why is he face down on the city of angels? Who is he praying to? But the police are here to do their duty, to serve, protect, and strip him down to his bare ass on the sidewalk. There is law and order in his nakedness. The helicopters above him cut the sky to pieces, but shelter from what falls today will be expensive. It will cost them their dead presidents and 8,000 boots on the ground. Today they pay full price for our nakedness. 2, the 2 words echoed through the streets, through Watts and Compton, louder than bloodhounds in the woods of Georgia, louder than hoses washing marches down the streets of Selma, Birmingham, and Oxford, louder than the rifle fire from a gun tower above Attica, louder than dynamite blasting through 16th Street Baptist, through 4 little girls, loud as Rodney King's silent video capturing 1,000 nights on 1,000 dark streets. We heard the words over the alarms, the sirens, the choppers, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Words that fractured the fault line running through Simi Valley. But when the ground began to quake, they felt nothing. It was down in South Central that the earth threw up its burden beneath our feet. We bounced and swayed through the rumbles with everything we could carry, a blender, a microwave, a stereo. From the pulpits and lecture halls, they asked, what is wrong down there? Why does the earth shake like that? But in the streets, we were catching our footing and watching 100 buildings turn to ash. Can't we all just get along? And we answered with a block of concrete, an exhaust pipe, a shotgun with gas and rags. We answered with Reginald Denny and with Fidel Lopez. The ground shook us loose like a man from his chains, and we too kept shaking until it all fell down, until the earth threw up its burden and us along with it. Thank you.
I'm over here snapping my fingers with the mic muted, like waiting, thinking that there was more to come. Yeah, when this joint hits, I like to use the phrase, y'all don't know how ready y'all ain't. That's the phrase. I think that applies definitely here. Thank you everyone for hanging with us and for sticking around. Much and mad love to our readers. Wonderful work. I think that I'm just always super proud of the folks that we publish and the work that they're tackling, and the ways that you guys are challenging yourselves to keep digging deeper, and to keep hitting those truths, so that if a reader comes to a page and there was no risk for the reader knows that as soon as they start reading. And I think that every single one of you are onto that and are pushing through that. Mad love. Thank you again to our audience. And please look forward during National Poetry Month, we'll be doing not only a reading, but a round table in which we discuss writing and the craft of writing, and our poets share with you some of their thoughts on that. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Mad love, and thank you again for being here.